Improve your English through reading. Today I am going to show you how to improve your English properly through reading skill. Let's begin. Right now you are reading English. That means that you are using your brain in a very active way. Reading is a very active process. It is true that the writer does a lot of work, but the reader also has to work hard. When you read a text, you have to do some or all of these. Imagine a scene in your head. Understand clearly what the writer is trying to say. Agree or disagree with the writer. Advantages of reading. When you learn a language, listening, speaking, and writing are important, but reading can also be very helpful. There are many advantages associated with reading, including learning vocabulary and context. You will usually encounter new words when you read. If there are too many new words for you, then the level is too high and you should read something simpler. But if there are, say, a maximum of 5 new words per page, you will learn this vocabulary easily. You may not even need to use a dictionary because you can guess the meaning from the rest of the text, from the context. Not only do you learn new words, but you see them being used naturally. A model for writing. When you read, it gives you a good example for writing. Texts that you read show you structures and expressions that you can use when you write. Seeing correctly structured English. When people write, they usually use correct English with a proper grammatical structure. This is not always true when people speak. So, by reading you see and learn grammatical English naturally. Working at your own speed. You can read as fast or as slowly as you like. You can read 10 pages in 30 minutes, or take 1 hour to explore just one page. It doesn't matter. The choice is yours. You cannot easily do this when speaking or listening. This is one of the big advantages of reading because different people work at different speeds. Personal interest. If you choose something to read that you like, it can actually be interesting and enjoyable. For example, if you like to read about football in your own language, why not read about football in English? You will get information about football and improve your English at the same time. 5 tips for reading. Tip number 1. Try to read at the right level. Read something that you can, more or less, understand. If you need to stop every 3 words to look in a dictionary, it is not interesting for you and you will soon be discouraged. Tip number 2. Make a note of new vocabulary. If there are 4 or 5 new words on a page, write them in your vocabulary book. But you don't have to write them while you read. Instead, try to guess their meaning as you read, mark them with a pen, then come back when you have finished reading to check in a dictionary and add them to your vocabulary book. Tip number 3. Try to read regularly. For example, read for a short time once a day. 15 minutes every day is better than 2 hours every Sunday. Fix a time to read and keep to it. For example, you could read for 15 minutes when you go to bed, or when you get up, or at lunchtime. Tip number 4. Be organized. Have everything ready. Something to read. A marker to highlight difficult words. A dictionary. Your vocabulary book. A pen to write down the new words. Tip number 5. Read what interests you. Choose a magazine or book about a subject that you like. Things to read. Newspapers. You can find English language newspapers in all large cities around the world. Newspapers are interesting because they are about real life and the news. But they are not easy to read. Try reading newspapers if your level is intermediate or above. Some British newspapers: The Telegraph, The Times, The Independent, The Guardian, The Financial Times, Business, The Sunday Times. Some American newspapers: The International Herald Tribune, The New York Times, The Wall Street Journal, Business. Magazines. Some magazines are published weekly, some monthly. You can find English language magazines in many large cities around the world. If you cannot find the magazine you want in your town, you may be able to order it for delivery. Many magazines have pictures which can help your understanding. You will need an intermediate level for most magazines, but a pre-intermediate level may be okay for some magazines. There are magazines on every subject: politics, sport, the house, cars, music, romance, travel, language, etc. Books. Books are divided mainly into nonfiction, history, biography, travel, cooking, etc. Fiction, stories and novels. Some books are easier to read than others. It often depends on the author. Agatha Christie, for example, wrote in an easier style and with simpler vocabulary than Stephen King. You can buy books in specialized English language bookshops in large cities around the world. You may also be able to find some English language books in libraries. And if you have a British council in your city, you can borrow many English language books from their library. Short stories. Short stories can be a good choice when learning a language because they are short. It's like reading a whole book in a few pages. You have all the excitement of a story in a book, but you only have to read 5,000 or 10,000 words. So you can quite quickly finish the story and feel that you have achieved something. Short stories are published in magazines, in books of short stories, and on the internet. You can also find short stories at readers. Readers are books that are specially published to be easy to read. They are short and with simple vocabulary. They are usually available at different levels, so you should be able to find the right level for you. Many readers are stories by famous authors in simple form. This is an excellent way for you to start practicing reading.